Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live, presented by The Grid. As always, I am Bryson Carver, and today is a special show. Tonight, the 2022-2023 NBA season commences. We got two games tonight, all high-profile teams, all teams that have a lot of questions coming into this season. It is great to have you in. My co-host, Barry Grant Jr., the All Even Podcast, will be joining us in just a second. But we got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to give my predictions in terms of the standings, East, West, award predictions, who's the MVP, the Coach of the Year, Sixth Man, Rookie of the Year, all the awards. And at the end of the show, what matters most? It doesn't mean jack what you do in the regular season. Ask last year's Phoenix Suns. Okay, it doesn't mean anything. What do you do in April, May, and if you get to June, what do you do in that month as well? Do you come home with the Larry O'Brien Trophy? So we got a lot to discuss today. So without further ado, let's bring him on. He is the host of the All Even Podcast, and he is also the co-founder of The Grid. For those of you that didn't know, would you please welcome Barry Grant Jr., although you can't see him. Here we go. There he is. There he is. Barry Grant Jr. is joining the Carving It Up NBA Tip-Off Show. How you doing, bro?
What's up, brother? I'm here, man. You know, as usual.
Of course. It's great to have you on. And first of all, I would just want to ask you, how are you feeling about this upcoming season? It felt like the offseason flew by, as I guess just because we had COVID year, we had the weird offseason, everything like that. And last year the finals were in July. So this year, get a little bit of a normal 4 months offseason with free agency draft. How are you feeling about this season coming in?
I think there's a lot of optimism around the league. I'm not going to talk about my particular team, but there's definitely optimism around the league. I mean, you got the Clippers. They're fairly healthy. They're very deep. There's a lot of optimism coming out of that camp. The Chicago Bulls are racked with injuries right now, and we don't know exactly what they're going to look like after showing some promise last season. You have the topsy-turvy situation in Boston. Milwaukee is the boring constant, and they're going to continue to be that in the Eastern Conference. You got the Nets, who are pretty much all in this year, and we don't know what they're going to look like after the season. They might look like a completely different team. Same thing with your Golden State Warriors. They have the young nucleus locked up, but the old guard maybe, this may be the last run for that. So, there's a lot of optimism, a lot of storylines around the league. Can we see some young teams, kind of improve? Are the Kings ready to show some improvement after a while? Obviously there's a lot of teams that are in tank mode because everybody wants Victor Wembanyama. So,
Who doesn't?
I think you probably have half the team either tanking or considering tanking. So, we're going to see exactly, what happens with that.
No, it's going to be exciting. Like you said, there is about as much optimism going into a season as you can remember, because the last couple of years you had a ton of injuries around the league. Teams like my Warriors a couple of years ago, you had Denver last year, Clippers. Right. So, a lot of teams, like you said, with a lot of optimism coming in. Now, we do have two games tonight. You got Sixers, Celtics. That tips off at just after 7:30 Eastern on TNT. That game will be, the defending Eastern Conference champion Celtics taking on a new look Sixers team. And then the second game actually features our two teams, Barry, the Los Angeles Lakers, taking on the defending world champion Golden State Warriors. And it's not just any game, folks. I want Barry and the whole world to look at the camera right now. It's ring night.
Oh,
we got the rings. We got the bling. We got ring number 4. Gonna be added this finger, added the fingers of all the Golden State Warriors. I had to get all my championship hats in the background and whatnot. This is not just a Warriors show, though. It's an NBA show.
It feels like a Warriors show. It really does.
Well, I mean, we're trying to be as unbiased as humanly possible on Carving Up. You know that, Barry. You know how it goes.
I don't think that's possible.
No, it is impossible. So if you're ready, let's jump right into the predictions. You ready, bro?
Let's do it, man.
All right, so we're going to start in the Eastern Conference. Let me remove this banner real quick. Okay, we're going to start in the Eastern Conference. Going to start with the bottom 5 teams, worst teams in the Eastern Conference. Going to go from worst to first. I got the Detroit Pistons finishing with the worst record in the conference. Some of the moves they made in the draft last couple of years, trading Grant which is a big loss for them on the perimeter. You got the Pacers as the 14 seed. Wouldn't be shocked if they finished lower than Detroit with all the moves they made last year, and probably even more moves they're going to make, possibly with your Lakers, Barry, trading Miles Turner or Buddy Hield.
Right.
It's a very, very young team. Long ways to go to get back into the playoff picture. I've got the Orlando Magic winning 31 games. I like their draft. I like what they've done the last 2 years. I think Orlando takes a step in the right direction in the future. Washington, I'm just, I'm kind of, it's kind of wash, rinse, repeat, right? You got some talented players. Bradley Beal, we know what he represents, getting locked up this offseason. Kyle Kuzma, who had a positive impact last year. And so you have some moves the Wizards have made that are all right, but still, I don't think this team even sniffs the play-in. And I've got Toronto as the 11th seed. I do not think they will even make the play-in after being, I think, the 5 seed last year in the postseason. I've got Toronto at 11 because, if I'm not mistaken, Barry, I think they only have one center on their roster. Now,
Yeah, the roster makeup is really it's really interesting in Toronto. I guess they're going to play a lot of small ball. They've been used to playing small ball in their backcourt for years now, but I guess they're going to really play some exclusive small ball this season, which is pretty interesting.
And that's, I've always, trust me, I know a thing or two about small ball, considering my Warriors have played it this entire run, but it's only sustainable for so long. If you notice, the Warriors are the prime model for it. Draymond Green doesn't play the 5 up until like the second or west round of the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
Because having an undersized player, that'll take your toll on you eventually. Scotty Barnes was absolutely outstanding last year. Fred VanVleet was an all-star, but I do think this team takes a step back. So as far as, I guess, the bottom feeders of the East, Barry, what do you think about my picks?
I think that's pretty solid. I think that every one of these teams are definitely going to be in tank mode. Especially Detroit. Detroit is definitely trying to get as much ping pong balls as possible so they can be able to pair up either, Wembayama or the other kid. What's his name?
Kate Cunningham?
No, talk about the other touted kid that's coming out.
Oh gosh, he was the one who played against Wembyama.
Yes,
Oh,
very talented as well.
Point guard. I'm blanking on him. I'm blanking on him.
Yeah. So, there's some talent, man. So you're gonna see a lot of these teams that, even if they're successful early on, they probably might put a stop to that early. So this is pretty spot on.
Yeah, and again, when I'm looking across the board, none of these teams, I think, maybe Washington, just because they do have a top 20 player, Bradley
Right.
Beal. But I cannot see a scenario in which any of these teams even get to the play-in tournament. So that's why I've got my bottom 5. So now we're going to move to the play-in teams in the Eastern Conference. Let's put it up worst to first. I've got the Knicks sneaking in, considering some of their offseason moves, keeping RJ Barrett, bringing in Jalen Brunson to go along with Julius Randle, who had a disappointing year last year. I've got the Hornets going up 1. They were the last 2 years, they were the 10 seed. I was really curious move at the head coach hiring, almost bringing in Kenny Atkinson. He backed out to stay in Golden State. And then bring back, is it Clifford? Is that coach's name?
Yes, Steve Clifford.
Steve Clifford, bringing Steve Clifford back to the Hornets, which was curious at best. I've got the Hornets at 9. Bulls, you sort of touched on it early in the show, Barry. They are just ravaged with injuries, starting with Lonzo Ball, his issues that he's been dealing with for almost a year now. I think the Bulls take a step back, go to the 8 seed. And I've got Atlanta at 7. I know a lot of people like Atlanta this year because of some of their moves this offseason, adding DeJounte Murray to what's, one of the better backcourt tandems in the NBA. But and one of the big surprises to me last year, Atlanta, when they made that run to the Eastern Conference Finals, went from one of the worst defensive teams to one of the better defensive teams. And last year, they kind of took a step back. And Miami absolutely housed them in the first round, aside from one game. So as far as the playing teams, Barry, what's your thoughts on what I got here?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm surprised that you actually have the Bulls higher than the Knicks or the actual or the Hornets. Because like I said, the Bulls to me they're in distress. And I think they're gonna have some issues. I mean, they still have some talent there. Obviously, Levine and DeRozan are still there, but I mean, who's gonna play point guard? Do they have the depth? I don't know if they have any of those things. So it's really gonna be a struggle for them all season to find a rhythm to get going. But I don't really have an issue in regards to the teams that you have. That I think I would just kind of maybe flip the Knicks and the Bulls.
Okay, that's totally fair. And I thought about I thought about kicking the Knicks out just because they're the Knicks. They always find a way to screw things up, even if they
Right.
do have low expectations.
Right.
But the reason I put the Bulls at 8 is I've read a lot of reports from all different sources. So if it's different reporters going to the same practices, they're seeing something. Zach LaVine reportedly is having an absolutely phenomenal camp. Now, if he's able to take yet another step in his career, he's kind of in his prime years into being possibly, dare I say, threatening to be an all-star starter. I think that could help the Bulls, obviously, with the likes of DeMar DeRozan, who had a career best year a year ago, and getting the Bulls back to at least back to the play-in tournament. So that's what I got. So moving to sort of the middle pack of the East, let's put it up here, worst to first. Oops, yep, I put it up too quick. Hold on. Hold on. I think I lost it. But okay, I'll just put up the rest of the playoff teams in that case. So worst to first, 6-1.
Okay.
I've got the Brooklyn Nets as the 6th seed. The over-under in Vegas, I think, was 50. I went under simply because, like I said, there's too many questions, most of them pointing to health, and some of them with 2 players involving commitment. Kevin Durant, to me, it's been one of the more underreported stories of the last 3 years. Ever since the Achilles tear in that 2019 finals, he has been as brittle as any superstar in the NBA.
Yeah.
Missed a lot of games his first full year in Brooklyn, and he missed a lot of games last year. So coming into this season, now he did have a pretty long off season considering the Nets got swept in the first round. But I think Kevin Durant does Kevin Durant things. He's gonna be, he's gonna be a top 5 player in the world once again. Kyrie Irving, I definitely think gives you more than 29 games. There's not the vaccine mandate situation, but Kyrie being Kyrie, we understand he's going to, some point in December or January, going to take 2-3 weeks off for undisclosed reasons. And then you got Ben Simmons, who you guys know is probably my least favorite player in the NBA. I think he steps in, does a good job. We saw at the end of his last year in Philly, him really ratchet up defensively. We know what he brought to the table as a whole, but especially at the end of that year, I thought he did a great job. Thought he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. So I got the Nets at the 6th seed. They missed the play-in tournament. Then I've got Boston, the defending Eastern Conference champions, at 5. Could there ever be an off season for a team that just made the finals that could have gone worse than Boston? Because obviously we know about the Ime Udoka situation. He's gone, and the job that he did bringing this team to the best defensive team in basketball, they're going to miss that badly. And then to me, what was a gut punch, Danilo Gallinari, which I thought was one of the better, more underrated signings of the offseason. He goes down with that gruesome knee injury playing overseas, so he's gone. I do like the addition, though, of Malcolm Brogdon. I've always been a big Malcolm Brogdon fan. Celtics finally get a true point as opposed to Marcus Smart. But I feel like the lack of presence by Udoka is going to be apparent right off the jump, possibly even tonight in that game against Philly. So I got Boston as the 5 seed. Miami is the 4 seed. They win the exact same amount of games they did last year at 53, but they will drop a few spots down to 4. Again, I was really surprised by Miami this offseason because I kept saying in May and June, I'm like, this is Pat Riley. He's going to make a move some point or another. I thought Bradley Beal was in the conversation. That did not happen. I still think it's Heat culture. We know what Jimmy Butler is able to bring to the table, especially in the postseason. Bam Adebayo and company coming back. So I've got the Heat at number 4. I've got the Cavs as the number 3 seed out east. They would have missed the play-in tournament. They would not have had to play in the play-in tournament if it were not for the injury to Jared Allen. Their defense nosedived after that. Okay, we know what Darius Garland is able to bring to the table, made an all-star game last year. They did trade Colin Sexton and a couple other guys to go get Donovan Mitchell in what was probably the biggest high-profile trade of the offseason, bringing him in. And I know there's a lot of questions about Donovan Mitchell defensively. When you add a great scorer who's a bad defensive player to a team that's already established defensively, he doesn't have to be that number 1 guy. Now, maybe teams will try and run some pick and roll, trying to get him on their best scores, but we'll see how that plays out. But given the jump that this Cavs team made from a bottom feeder to a team that probably would have made the playoffs if not for Jared Allen's injury, I think they continue to take another step forward. And Evan Mobley is just a phenomenal talent. I've got the Cavs at number 3. Philadelphia at number 2. They win 55 games. I've been high on the Sixers all offseason, partly because of the addition of P.J. Tucker. Anywhere P.J. Tucker goes, he instills a level of intensity, passion, toughness to a Sixers team that desperately needs it. Joel Embiid, I thought probably should have been the MVP last year, aside from Giannis. He led the league in scoring, first big man to do that since Shaquille O'Neal. And James Harden, I have really appreciated, and I've been a big critic of James Harden on this show, but I have really appreciated the fact that he seems to have been crazy committed to the offseason, taking care of his body. He's going to come into this season in better shape than he did last year in Brooklyn. There's no sort of there's no sort of cloud hanging over a James Harden team like it was last year with the whole Kyrie Irving situation. So and Tyrese Maxey, I think, takes a huge step forward. And then I've got the Milwaukee Bucks as the number 1 seed, winning 59 games. There's a very strong case to be made that Giannis is the best player in the NBA. Chris Middleton's going to be out just a little bit due to an injury, but he should be back pretty soon. And then when you look at some of the additions they made, if I'm not mistaken, I think they added Joe Ingles this offseason, who's a tremendous catch and shoot guy from the Utah Jazz. They brought him in. And that's what Milwaukee really missed in that Game 7 loss to Boston, was not just Chris Middleton, but also an ability to really catch up to the Celtics in terms of three-point makes. And so really the hole in their team, I think they addressed it. So I got Milwaukee as the number 1 seed out east. Barry, after that mouthful on my part, what do you got 1 through 6 as far as what I got?
Let me see. I think the Celtics at 5. I mean, them even winning 50 games to me with all the issues that they have, Robert Williams being hurt, Danilo Gallinari going down, Ime Udoka not being there, and he's literally, if you want to call Tatum the face, I think Udoka was the heart and soul of that team because of the grittiness and the toughness that he brought to that team last season. So I think even them being a 5 seed is high because
Really?
I really do think that they're going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle mentally, not in regards to the talent, but that's a lot to really miss a guy like that for an entire season. So I think the Celtics are going to struggle a bit. I think I like the Nets a little more than you do.
Okay.
I still think that they're one of the most talented teams in the NBA. Obviously, they have to stay healthy. Kyrie has to be committed. I'm hearing, reports out of camp that he's fully bought in, and there's some maturity that they've seen out of him. So we'll see if that continues throughout the season. Miami Heat, I mean, they're always the constant, right? But can they do enough to crack through? I think 4 is pretty good for them because they are like a mid team. Depending on the matchup in the playoffs, they can make some noise, but I don't really see them doing much right there. Cleveland, I like Cleveland. I think Cleveland is definitely going to be one of the stories in the Eastern Conference, just like how they were last year. They really took everybody by surprise last season with how well they played, and then injuries and stuff kind of took them out of the race in the second half of the season. But I think everybody coming back with the addition of Donovan Mitchell, just a bona fide go-ahead scorer that they need, somebody to just get a bucket for themselves. They can really be able to focus on the defensive end and do a lot of great things, especially in transition. So that's going to be a really, really good team. Philly, I like Philly. I'm a big Joel Embiid fan. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head in regards to Tyrese Maxey. What the amazing step forward that he took last year. I mean, Maxey looks like a bona fide star at this point. You know what I mean? So for him to be on this team and possibly just be the third guy, that's a good problem to have for them. You still got guys like Tobias Harris that can be able to score a little bit. He's not going to give you much defensively, but he can still be able to put the ball in the basket. Shake Milton, they're pretty good. They're pretty deep. My biggest concern with Philadelphia is not the talent. It's about Doc Rivers. It's about, can he be able to push the right buttons in the playoffs in elimination game situations to be able to crack through. He hasn't proven that in his career. Coaches do not get better as they get older. So I think this is just what he is. And, like I said before, the Milwaukee Bucks are the boring constant that's in the Eastern Conference. They have the best player in the league, the most unstoppable player in the league. They're very balanced. They have shooting. They have rim protection. They have defense. Middleton is going to miss the beginning of the season, but he'll be ready to go when he's ready, and they'll welcome him with open arms, and they won't miss a beat. So I think Milwaukee's definitely hands down the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and a lot of people believe, including myself, that if Middleton doesn't go down in that Chicago series, that they get to
win.
the NBA Finals.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe they would have won the championship. So when you look at Milwaukee and again, like I said, some of the holes that they filled, and I'm sort of I have the same opinion on Milwaukee as far as the thing I'm concerned about that you do with Philadelphia, and not to dismiss your Doc Rivers point, because we know he's blown more 3-1 leads than any coach in NBA history.
Right.
I have major questions about Mike Budenholzer.
It's fair. Very
He
fair.
I get they won the championship last year, but some of the decisions, some of the lack of adjustments made in some of those series against the Nets, Hawks, in the finals against Phoenix, it felt like the greatness of Giannis kind of masked some of those
Right.
because he's out here dropping 40 and 14. But I think there's an opportunity, there's a chance that could get exposed possibly in the postseason if there's an opportunity to. So yeah, that's why I got the Bucks as the number 1 seed. So let's transition now to the Wild Wild West, and let's go to the bottom of the Western Conference. From 15 to 11. I've got the Jazz finishing with the worst record in the conference. They're still cleaning house, right? You still got Mike Conley in the building, who they're probably going to move soon. But you got Oakland. I got the Jazz at 15. I think they're gonna. Danny Ainge is gonna make sure that he puts them in position to try and go get Victor Wembanyama. I've got them at 15. I've got the Thunder at 14. I think they sort of have that same mentality. Chet Holmgren, the unfortunate news a couple months ago, he is done for the season after getting hurt in that I guess it was a Pro-Am game. And so he's done for the year. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I think, is coming into the year injured, which we know the old saying, if you enter the season hurt, you're probably going to exit the season hurt as well. So, Oklahoma City's not going to do a whole lot this year. They got their sights set on the French kid as well. I've got San Antonio 13th. I feel like I probably should have put them at less than 27 wins, because I heard Greg Popovich say today, he actually told the media, this is Greg Popovich's own words. He said that if I were you, I would not go to Vegas and bet us to win the NBA championship. So here he's instilling a lot of confidence in some of those young guys in San Antonio, especially after they moved DeJounte Murray. After barely getting to the play-in last year, San Antonio will not get there this season. I've got Houston at 12. I think Houston takes a little bit of a step forward. Some of the draft picks, bringing in probably the 2 best offensive players of the last 2 drafts. And also, by the way, bringing Kevin Porter Jr. in, or locking him up on a long-term deal. I've got the Rockets 12th, and I've got the Kings 11th. I understand they hired my man Mike Brown, you call Mr. Potato Head. I see the similarities. But De'Aaron Fox is one of the more underrated guards in the NBA without a question. But some of the moves they made the last couple of years are questionable at best. Having a plethora of guards in the building reminds me a little bit of what the Hornets did a couple of years back.
Yes.
There. So as far as the bottom feeders out west, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with the Jazz being the worst team. Definitely OKC will follow that, because they had, obviously, I think they were still in tank mode, but they still wanted to see what Chet had, right? So
Yep.
You can still have that tank mentality and still be able to throw your top selected pick out there and see what he has, so he can at least get some experience going into next season. But the fact that he's hurt, he's going to miss the whole season. It's not a terrible thing for him. However, it's like, the fact that he's a big guy with a foot problem, that's concerning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we've seen other guys bounce back from it. We see Joel Embiid. They had the right plan for him coming out of Kansas. Ben Simmons had the same thing, not the same injury, but there was a foot problem there. So there are exceptions to the rule in regards to you can be able to come back from that and be fine. But we're gonna see how OKC handles him. He's a big, fragile guy, man, and I don't really. It's concerning to me, just to put it that way. The Spurs, yeah, you're spot on with the Spurs. They're definitely in rebuild mode. I'm surprised that Greg Popovich is still there for it, which is pretty shocking to me. I would flip the Kings and the Rockets just because it's NBA Siberia, and I don't have any confidence in them. The Kings will always be the Kings until they show me otherwise. So I will always have them below anybody else in regards to where they need to be. I would put them at 12. I have Houston a little higher right there at 11 because I like their talent. I don't think that they're going to be, 36 wins good, but they're definitely going to make the proper strides because I like the coach that they have. He's a good leader. I like the young talent that they have. They locked up Kevin Porter. You know, it's an $82 million deal. Only 15 of that is guaranteed, but it's still showing the kid that, you know, they believe in him, and he just has to make sure that he does the right thing on and off the court to be able to get that money. So I like what you have here, but like I said, I would swap the Kings and the Rockets.
No, I could totally see that becoming a reality. And the thing, by the way, fun fact about the Sacramento Kings, the Seattle Supersonics have won a playoff series more recently than the Kings. So, and that franchise, of course, has been in Oklahoma City for the
Right.
last 15 odd years. So,
Yes.
I just wanted to throw that out there. You and I both, I mean, I guess it's a quote unquote division rival. Neither of us really like the Sacramento Kings. So let's move to the teams that I believe will be playing teams. From 10 to 7, I've got the Portland Trailblazers at 10, getting Damian Lillard back. I've got the Lakers at 9, your Lakers at 9, Barry. I've got the Timberwolves at 8, and I've got the Phoenix Suns, the best record in the NBA last year. I've got them as the 7 seed. Starting with Portland, obviously, you guys know how I feel about Damian Lillard. He is one of my 5 favorite players in the NBA. I love the way that dude plays. I've been campaigning for a couple of years for him to get out of Portland, not with any hate towards Portland, but I feel like it's kind of run its course in regards to how they can put the talent around him to try and compete for a championship. I will say this, and I think you and I both agree on this, Barry. Shaedon Sharpe has a chance to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. We saw what he did last year, and when he was drafted, it felt like a steal for the Blazers in the first round of that draft, and he's looked sensational in the preseason.
Freak athlete.
He is. He's outstanding. I hope he's able to make those strides this year. I've got your Lakers at 9th. I think they finished with a winning record. I think the continuity is going to be there more this year than it was a year ago. With obviously we understand what LeBron still brings to the table now in year 20. Anthony Davis, I think, will give you more than 30 plus games. I think. I'm not to sort of interrupt right here, but if you're a Laker fan, Barry, what would you consider a win for Anthony Davis in terms of games played?
A win.
What would you say? Okay, if Anthony Davis gives me this many games, I will take that.
55.
That's exactly what I was thinking. No, I agree with you. So if he's able to get back to anything near what he was, certainly in the bubble in 2020 when you guys won the championship, that'll be huge for the Lakers. Obviously,
Bryson, think about it. Yeah. I don't want to get off topic, but the season is starting and he already has back issues.
It's the unfortunate gift that keeps on giving.
He played 2 games in the preseason and he has back issues.
He's for a guy who's 6'10", he's pretty much made of glass.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And also there's the story, of course, of Darvin Ham coming in, first-year head coach, Russell Westbrook. We're going to see if he's going to play tonight. It looks like he suffered a hamstring injury in the last preseason game against the Kings. Is he? I'm not certain. I think he's going to start the season coming off the bench, which is quite stunning considering how last year went, but I think it's a credit to Darvin Ham, the fact that he was able to get to him. Some of their offseason moves I liked. Bringing in my man Juan Toscano Anderson, he's an effort player. He's going to bring a lot to this Lakers team, certainly in terms of intangibles. Bringing back Dennis Schroeder, who is the all-time bag fumble from a couple years back. It's a win for the Lakers. It is a big L for Dennis Schroeder. Patrick Beverley, the instigator, the most annoying player in the NBA, looks like starting at point guard for LA. So a decent upgrade, I guess, at the point guard position, you could say.
The resident cheerleader is what I call him.
That's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, weeping after playing wins. I mean, that's what he brings to the table. But I've got the Lakers at 9. Patrick Beverley's old team, the Timberwolves at 8. I'm telling you, man, I do not get the Timberwolves hype. I'm not a fan of Chris Finch as a head coach. I mean, you look at how he got completely manhandled as far as, coaching in terms of decisions by Taylor Jenkins in that first round series. Anthony Edwards is an absolutely phenomenal talent. Cat is, in my mind, a top 15 player in the NBA. But when you look at D'Angelo Russell is a complete liability defensively. And I want you to say it for the whole audience to hear. Who was it, that overrated big man that the Timberwolves traded for?
Rudy Gobert.
Your favorite player. I don't get playing. This isn't the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think it's going to have the same effect playing 2 big men for Minnesota. And very good chance they're going to have to take Gobert out at the end of games just for spacing issues. Because we know when you play small against Rudy Gobert and you play 5 out, he's a complete liability in the defensive end of the floor when you have to make him stretch out there to the 3-point line. I've got the Timberwolves 8. I've got the Phoenix Suns at 7. Here's why. I think that locker room is broken.
I agree.
when you consider the dynamic between Monty Williams, who I think is a brilliant head coach, and DeAndre Ayton, it feels like they grudgingly brought him back this year. They can't trade him until next season, the way the contract is worded. Chris Paul is not getting any younger. Devin Booker, I thought, should have been top 5 in the MVP race last year, but they lost some guys in free agency. I am not high whatsoever on the Phoenix Suns this season, certainly as I was last year when I did pick them to be the number 1 seed. So as far as the playing teams, Barry, what you got?
As far as the playing teams, I like your playing teams. I think I would flip it. I think that I would put the Phoenix Suns at 9.
Oh, wow.
Just because I think they're going to have that much of a drop off, honestly.
Okay.
I would then put the Lakers at 7. I think they have enough to win 45 games. And that's if everything breaks well, if Braun can give you 60 plus games, if AD can give you 60 plus games, if they figure out a way to either trade Russ or have him buy in at some point to some degree. But they have a guard, they have a plethora of guards. So how much minutes is he really going to play? You're probably looking at Patrick Beverley and Dunn getting all the minutes. When Schroeder comes back, he's going to play a lot of off ball as well. So, they're going to have to do something immediately with that situation. But, that's neither here nor there. I think that if everything breaks well, I think the Lakers can see themselves in the 7th hole. The Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm with you. I just don't see it. Listen, they have talent, right? Anthony Edwards, Cat, D'Angelo Russell, my man Jaden McDaniels.
I like him.
They just named him the starter. So he's long. He has some defensive prowess there. So they do have talent. It's just that I just don't understand why people are just buying in with this until they see it. You got to see it first. Yep. This is not NBA 2K where you're just putting players together and it just miraculously works. Like we have to see how that clunky lineup is going to look in real time. Give it 15 to 20 games and see exactly how they look before everybody anoints them a top 5 or 3 team in the Western Conference. With the Blazers, I mean, listen, they have some turnover. They brought in some guys. They have some young talent as well. Dame is fully committed to Portland, and I don't understand why. But, if he wants to stay there, that's fine. But they're not going to move up any higher than maybe 8, right? So they're gonna waver from that 10 to 8 spot all season. I'm okay with with definitely your playing teams here.
Before I respond, we do have some comments here. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Shakir Gallant.
That's my guy.
Yeah, he says the Knicks 6. So I assume that Shakir is a Knicks fan.
Huge Knicks fan. It's upsetting.
Yeah, that's. I feel bad for you, man. He says not even worried about the rest. Stanley Pradell says not Barry Grant agreeing with the Lakers at 9. Listen, we keep it objective, Stanley. We keep it objective.
I have to be real, right? I'm a homer, but I gotta be real.
Yeah, and he says, and Shakir says, of course you would. Typical Barrington. Absolutely upsetting. Absolutely upsetting. That's, man.
Well, my guys are coming after me today. It's fine. It's cool.
They're all over you. They're all over you. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And obviously, I forgot to mention this with the Lakers. It's kind of a massive story. LeBron James could be the all-time leading scorer by season's end. Which is, it's going to be, again, the story of the regular season. He could break it probably sometime around late February, early March, around that area. You're really going to be tracking the games, the destinations that those games will be played at.
And then have miserable Kareem have to celebrate that, which is it's amazing.
It's a shame, man. I don't want to get too far into the story, but it's a shame how this whole situation's playing out. Like I really, as a lifelong Steph Curry fan, I really appreciated how classy Ray Allen was.
Oh, absolutely.
As Steph was nearing up and was just giving him nothing but praise. And it's been the exact opposite with Kareem and LeBron. We heard the LeBron quote a couple weeks back saying that there's no relationship there because the fact that Kareem has done nothing but take shots at LeBron for specifically, I want to put an emphasis on that, the last year.
Right.
There's a lot to that as we've discussed on and off air. So, it's a shame that that's the case, especially the fact that it's a Laker breaking the all-time scoring record, which Kareem, of course, won the majority of his championships in Los Angeles. But be that as it may, yeah, I mean, we agree on Minnesota. The ceiling's high in regards to talent,
Yes.
but I don't trust coaching. I do not trust them defensively. And it feels like the Blazers are the opposite. I like the young talent they have there. We know what Dame brings to the table. But like you said, their ceiling feels like the 8th seed, and it's a very hard ceiling.
Right.
And then Phoenix feels like they kind of have a broken locker room. And so as far as the teams that could be possibly contending or at least sniff that sort of area, 1 through 6, the teams that will get out of the play-in tournament, I've got from 6 to 1. I've got Pelicans, Mavericks, Clippers, Nuggets, Grizzlies, and then my Warriors. Starting with New Orleans. I know you're not as high on Zion as I am. I think he's going to have a massive season this year. We look at the last time he was healthy, a couple years back, he was putting up Shaq-like numbers. Obviously, Zion Williams is not Shaquille O'Neal, obviously. Right. And he's a liability on the defensive end of the floor. We'll see if they can get him to buy in over there. But when you look at a Pelicans team that added CJ McCollum, added some of these young pieces, did a great job in the draft. David Griffin is an underrated general manager.
He's done a good job.
Opinion. He is. I mean, he's done a great job and did a good job in Cleveland as well, getting that team to 3 straight finals. But I look at New Orleans. I look at the coaching staff. A lot of Steve Kerr disciples on that staff, which of course I appreciate. But CJ McCollum bringing the veteran leadership he did. He got a big extension this offseason, so props to him on that. You look at Brandon Ingram having an all-star season. And speaking of that Ingram-Zion dynamic, the only concern I have is the fact that those are 2 ball-dominant guys. Those guys are not great playing well off the ball. I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 all-star seasons that Brandon Ingram had, Zion played either very little or none of. And then the only all-star season Zion had, Brandon Ingram had a down year. Like I worry a little bit about that duo. But outside of that, as far as their depth, obviously guys like Valanciunas had a great year last year, so I really like the Pelicans this year to be the 6th seed. I've got the Dallas Mavericks right where they were a year ago. Actually, they were the 4th seed last year, so actually they're the 5. I'll have them as the 5 seed this year. Losing Jalen Brunson in free agency, I did like the addition of Christian Wood. We know what Luka Doncic brings to the table. He's in my opinion, he's one of the 4 best players in the NBA.
Stole him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason Kidd, I was dead wrong on this one, on this hiring. He not only did this Mavericks team obviously advance further in the playoffs, but it was the way that they did it. Improved 3-point shooting and the defensive side of the ball. They were a top 5 team defensively. Expect to see more of that this year. But just because the West is a little more loaded this year than last, I wouldn't bet on a conference finals appearance for the Dallas Mavericks. I've got them at 5. I've got your beloved Los Angeles Clippers at 4, getting Kawhi Leonard, Paul George back. We know that that's, without question, one of the 3 or 4 best duos in the NBA when healthy. Big emphasis on when healthy because both of them have been dealing with injuries. Kawhi has looked phenomenal in the preseason, but reportedly he's still having issues with his knees. I don't know if there's if he's dealing with like tendonitis or whatever, but he's still not 100% right, which I'm concerned about. We know about the load management there. Paul George missed majority of the games last year. But as far as the Clippers' depth, Ty Lue is a top 3 coach in the NBA for me. You got guys like Reggie Jackson who had a great year last year and company. What's the kid's name? I'm blanking. Played at Florida State. Had a great game 6 against the Jazz.
What's his name? Yeah,
oh my gosh, Terrence Mann.
Terrence Mann.
Yeah. I think Terrence Mann takes a big step in the right direction this year. But just because of it's the same reason I'm not terribly high on Brooklyn, just because of the availability question. I've got the Clippers as the 4 seed. Denver is the 3 seed. Getting back Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. is going to be huge. I like what I've seen from that trio, along with, of course, Jokic in the preseason. I liked adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's an excellent catch and shoot guy and is good on the defensive end of the floor. I think Michael Malone is a very good head coach in the NBA. They're deep. They gave my Warriors a tough run in the first round, despite getting getting gentlemen swept despite having their second and third best players out. So I think the Denver Nuggets are where they're going to be a lot the next few years as a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. I've got the Memphis Grizzlies back where they were last year as the 2 seed. When you look at this team, we know what John Morant is able to do on the offensive side of the ball. He's a little bit of a liability defensively. But Dylan Brooks had an excellent season. Steven Adams was a great addition to this group. Jaren Jackson Jr., who was discussed in trade talks with the Brooklyn Nets, but he is outstanding on both sides of the floor. I thought he played very well in the postseason when John went down. The depth that this group has, they go legit 10, 11 deep. I think Taylor Jenkins is one of the bright young head coaches in the NBA. So I've got the Grizzlies as the 2 seed. And of course, I have to have the defending world champion Golden State Warriors as the number 1 seed. I think they win 64 games. I've got him at 64 for the sake of the fact that Steve Kerr brought up that some of the starters are going to play a little over 30 minutes about a month into the seasons, guys like Steph, Clay, Draymond. But when you have the young talent, when you have guys like Jordan Poole, who just 2 years ago was a G Leaguer, to last year making a huge impact in the regular season and playoffs, and now congrats to him securing the bag long term. Andrew Wiggins, of course, we know was the Warriors, to say the very least, fleeced the Timberwolves in that trade, not only getting Wiggins, but also getting Jonathan Kuminga through the Timberwolves pick. And I think Kuminga has a good year. I think look out, Dub Nation and NBA fans, look out for Moses Moody. To kind of assert himself as that second or third guy off the bench for the Warriors. I like his scoring ability. He can shoot the basketball. He's serviceable on the defensive end. James Wiseman has looked excellent in the preseason. I like what I'm seeing from him. I think about 2-3 months down the road, I think he's going to take Kevon Looney's spot as the starting big man. And I think that'll be better for Looney as well, not having to play as high minutes. And we know, obviously, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. You brought it up earlier, Barry. This very well could be their last dance together, considering Draymond's contract situation, although he could opt into next year, but we'll see. But this has a... I've talked ad nauseum on my show about the fact that the Warriors aren't even the favorites to win the Western Conference. Steph Curry was called the 5th best player in the NBA. I mean, it feels like a repeat of 2015. Hopefully not with the same result as 2016, because that still gives me nightmares. But it feels like a sort of underdog type world champion for Golden State. I think Steph does Steph things. I think Clay has a big bounce back year, finally, for the first time in 4 years, getting a full off season rather than recovering from a knee or heel injury. So I obviously love my Warriors at 64 wins. Barry, 1 through 6 in the Western Conference. What do you think?
I mean, you have the Pelicans at 6. I think if you're going to keep them as the top 6 teams, then they definitely are 6. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up in the play-in as well. And then one of those play-in teams kind of bounce them out. So, Dallas, I agree with you. Losing Brunson is big, but getting the big man Christian Wood is that's definitely a great asset for them, because it gives them balance. It gives them a little backup for Porzingis being in and out of the lineup, right?
Porzingis is in Washington.
Porzingis in Washington. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So now they have him there that they can be able to really benefit, because he can shoot the outside, he can block shots. He's a really good guy if he can be able to stay healthy. That's one of his things that he needs to be able to show, that he can be able to stay healthy long term. The interesting part of that is Denver. Denver is interesting, because I can see that Denver and Memphis will be battling for that 2 and 3 spot all season, as well as the Clippers too. I think the Clippers, those 3 teams are going to be vying for those 3 spots. So you may see that being like a round robin type of situation all season. Given that the Clippers, if they can stay healthy, Mr. Load Management, I think at this point, in regards to his knees, there's a lot of bone on bone, and there's nothing much that you can do with that. It's going to be about how he deals with the pain tolerance going forward in his career. So that's the thing with Kawhi Leonard. Can he be able to just tolerate the pain enough to be able to just play, give them 60 to 65 games? It's possible, but we'll see. With Denver, the problem that I have with Denver is the head coach. They're not going to get any farther where they want to be unless they move on. I've been saying this for the last 3 years. He's just one of those guys. He's just a guy. So they need to get a little bit more star power with their head coach, and I think that they can be able to really get to where they need to go. Given the injury history that they have with Porter Jr. and Murray, if those guys can stay healthy, I think they have a decent shot. 58 wins for the Grizzlies, and that's high praise. That's high praise for them. They have a nice young core. Ja missed a lot of games last year, and they played very well with him being out of the lineup. They just locked up Brandon Clark as well, I believe, for a few
Yes, they did.
seasons. So they're keeping that core together, which is great. I think 58 wins might be pushing it, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I see them do that. But it's just I think that might be a little bit too early for them to crack 58 wins. For the Golden State Warriors, obviously, I think that they're the toast of the Western Conference in regards to talent, depth, cohesion. They have a top 3-4 player in the league and Steph. The young pieces are just, they're coming into their own. They don't need to rely on Draymond Green as much this season. And I think that's going to play into their plans of this being the last dance for him. Because, for him to sign a contract extension, they're literally like Lacob is literally going to be looking like a $1 billion tax penalty or something like that. And it's like at that point, it doesn't make sense. As much as you love a guy, you're not going to pay $1 billion for your roster.
Right.
So this is I think they're going to give the young players a little bit more responsibility this season, as they should. See what they can do. See if they're going to be keepers or if they're going to be trade pieces, right? So, it's going to be very important to see what those young guys do. And then that's going to allow Draymond Green to sit a lot more. So I think Golden State has the cohesion. They have the depth. They have the young pieces. They have the shooting. Obviously, they have the coaching. I don't disagree with Golden State being the top team. 64 wins. Leaning on the young guys early on in the season, I think 64 might be pushing it. But I do see them winning. I can see them winning 58 to 60 games.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. And again, there's a possibility maybe they could get off to a little bit of a slower start. But I'm looking at last year with no Clay and no Wiseman, and they had the best record in the NBA 2 months in before some of the other injuries started to hit later on the season. And so, again, having fresh legs, coming off of a grueling 6-game series against Boston, with, again, it feels like it, and it's crazy. It's a credit to them. It's a little New England Patriots ish, finding the people out there that still doubt you. I know Clay's got an ongoing battle with Ronnie 2K. Right now, so you sort of have that dynamic going on. I don't think the Draymond thing is going to be an issue, as much as other people will be. We kind of both agree. Like, it was Draymond out of line for slugging Jordan Poole? Of course he was, but I don't think it's a something that is going to hurt. I mean, if there's any locker room in basketball that can get through this, it's Golden State, because of the leadership of guys like Steph, Iguodala coming back for his 19th and final season. Kevon Looney has really emerged as a team leader. And Steve Kerr, we know, is one of the best in the business in that regard. Let's see, we've got a comment here from our guy Ryan Flowers. Shout out to our grid teammate from Clutch Sports Talk. He says Chris Wood, UNLV. Yep, there you go. So played at the University of Las Vegas. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we agree for the most part in the Western Conference. So bring us back up on the screen here. So right now, I'm going to transition from now my take a break from sort of the team predictions now to individual awards.
Okay.
And then once I do each award, I'd like to hear what your pick is. So we're going to start. What are we going to start with? Okay, let's start with most improved player. So this year, I've got the most improved player as our guy Tyrese Maxey.
Okay.
I think when you look at his improvement last year, taking a massive step forward, as you mentioned, sort of being that third guy for Philadelphia. I'm curious to see that this is going to be an award that I think is going to be very interesting to kind of watch in March and April once it starts to get voted on, because last year, Ja Morant winning the award didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, just because I think the spirit of this award is a guy that we don't expect to be as good as he is. Like Ja Morant's the second
Exactly.
overall pick. Like
Right.
he's
Right.
supposed to be that good.
Absolutely.
I thought, Jordan Poole, Desmond Bane, guys like that should have been in the discussion more than Ja. But
I agree.
that said, we like what Tyrese Maxey has brought, since he's been in Philadelphia, but I think he takes that extra step forward as the most improved player for the 76ers. What's your thoughts on this? And if you disagree, who would you pick to win most improved player?
No, I'm with you. I think he has a great chance to win it. I saw a comment in the chat that RJ Barrett could definitely be one, which is interesting. I
Sure.
like that. Yeah, so I think that one to me sticks out the most. I think Tyrese Maxey is definitely in line for the most improved player. He's so good,
He
and
is.
he makes it look so easy that I think that his value may be a little higher than James Harden's value at this point in regards to what he brings with youth, athleticism, smarts, knows how to run the pick and roll. He's a microwave in regards to scoring. So, there's a lot of things that he can be able to bring to that team that without him, they're not as dynamic. So that makes the huge case for him to be most improved. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we agree on Tyrese Maxey. Again, I'm with you. And I think there's an opportunity, not to sort of get too off topic, but there's a chance, I think, for the 76ers to possibly move off of Tobias Harris's contract
Yep.
and bring even more pieces. So
Correct.
that could be even more beneficial in terms of spacing and giving guys like Maxey opportunities to score, not just on the perimeter, but also he's fantastic in transition, with James Harden and company. So I've got Tyrese Maxey. I guess we both have Tyrese Maxey as our most improved players. Let's go to the sixth man of the year, and I've got it as my man Jordan Poole. Just got the bag coming back to Golden State. Again, when you talk about guys who have made that just a massive improvement, Jordan Poole, folks, a few years ago, his rookie year, and what was a forgettable year for my Warriors, winning 15 games with all the injuries, Jordan Poole averaged 9 points a game on 39% for the field. He was awful. It was stop. I mean, I remember watching games like, dude, why is the Steve Kerr just benching this guy? Like, I guess we're trying to tank, but when you're talking about his improvement shooting the basketball, he's got a underrated handle. He had probably the handle of the year last year against the Wizards. And then a year after that, he's a G leaguer. And so you look at now, he's not only a champion, but he's a guy who I don't think Golden State could have won the championship without. Because when Steph Curry goes down, he's coming off the bench to start the postseason, and you got Jordan Poole. We got the pool party and everything doing what he did. He's a defensive liability. You worry about that. Occasionally, you worry about shot selection from time to time. But in terms of his aggressiveness, in terms of his ability to shoot the ball, I've gone so far as to say it's now the splash triplets in Golden State with how he can get hot. I think I'm going to go out on a limb saying Jordan Poole could make a case to be an all-star this year. So what's your thoughts on my sixth man, Barry?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think Jordan Poole showed a lot last season that he can be able to be that third splash brother. Take the weight of the offense at times and really dominate a game, dominate a quarter, and be able to give the veterans some needed rest. So I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. I think I have other guys in consideration like Kobe White. I like Kobe White from Chicago. I think he's going to be motivated this year, given the fact that they couldn't come to an agreement with a contract extension for him. I think he's going to have a very, very good season and play himself into big money come the offseason. So look out for Kobe White in regards to what I think in regards to that. Who else? I think if given the minutes, I think Obi Toppin can really make some noise as well. What he did in the second half of last season, I like what I saw out of him. So I think that Obi Toppin can really make some noise. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I like your picks, and I'm sort of looking at some of the other guys. Now Maxey's going to be a starter, so that's out of the question. But yeah, I think it's possible, and you look again. When you talk about sort of the spirit that was most improved player, but you're talking about sixth man of the year, guys who certainly could start in the majority of other teams around the NBA. Somebody could start for 22, 25 teams in the NBA,
Right.
especially given his promises, potential, and his youth. He has been, I don't think there's a better fit for sixth man on a team than Jordan Poole in Golden State. Before we move on, Yeah, we have a comment. Alberto P says OB. I assume Alberto is also a Knicks fan.
Huge Knicks fan.
There you go. We were getting the chat taken over by Madison Square Garden. All we need is Spike Lee at this point.
Right.
But yeah, it's gonna be exciting to see who's able to come away. So moving on now to the Rookie of the Year. I think it's Jabari Smith. I think what you saw from him last year at Auburn. I know people get tired of hearing we sort of give too many comparisons to this one individual player. Anytime we talk about big guys that can score efficiently, but Kevin Durant, you see the similarities. Now, he's not as good in the defensive end as Kevin Durant is, or even as Kevin Durant was when he came into the league, but his ability to shoot, to finish down low, he's got a solid handle. When you go to a Rockets team, which if you think Houston Rockets, one of the first thing that comes to your mind just historically is offense. And so I think having that identity there, having other scorers around him, having a coach that's going to empower him to get better, to be able to develop him. I think Jabari Smith is going to be the Rookie of the Year. What's your thoughts?
I don't disagree with you. I think Jabari Smith just makes basketball look so easy. He's just so smooth. Has the wingspan to be a great defender, great finisher, has the chance to have a really, really good stroke in regards to his jump shot. So I like the kid, man. You know me, I'm not a big fan of Mr. Dookie down there in Orlando in NBA Bermuda. So I think Jabari has all the tools to be able to go to the next level, man. And the fact that they have a nice young nucleus over there, a bunch of fun players that are on that team, I think Houston is going to be one of the definitely interesting and fun teams to watch, man. So I'm with you. I think Jabari Smith, hands down, is definitely going to be the Rookie of the Year.
I think you're underrating Banchero just a little bit. I guess I'm a little higher than you are, but
I've seen enough of Mr. Pablo or Paulo to have him any higher than where he is right now. I've seen a lot of failed basketball at my school in regards to Duke University to even think that he's going to be a franchise player. He can be a piece. He can definitely be a piece.
Sure.
But in regards to being the guy, no, he doesn't have that type of mentality at all.
Okay, that's fair. So we're moving on now to the Defensive Player of the Year, and this may actually surprise people because, as I mentioned earlier in the show, he's my least favorite player in the league, Ben Simmons.
Yeah,
I think
should have got it 2 years ago.
Yeah, he should have gotten it over our favorite player as well. But when you talk about versatility, I don't think it gets better than Ben Simmons.
Right.
He can guard 1 through 5. He can guard big guys. He can guard Joel Embiid, or he can guard Steph Curry. He's quick. He's agile. He's got length, and he's going to a team that's going to need him to guard the best guys on regardless of position on a night-to-night basis. So the question for him is going to be health. If he is healthy, considering what Brooklyn is what they've been deficient in the last couple of years, I think Ben Simmons is going to fit perfectly with what they want to do. Once again, he's going to be guarding the best player every single night. Not the best guard, not the best player every single night for Brooklyn. So Defensive Player of the Year, Barry, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think Ben Simmons, if you heard what Steve Nash has said coming out of camp, coming out of preseason, that they don't care if he shoots or not. If he wants to shoot. But they want him to feel as comfortable as possible being the versatile player that he is, defending, running the break, getting everybody set up, just kind of being himself. They don't want him to, kind of get over his sticks. They just want him to play within his own way of playing basketball, which is being a great defender, 1 to 5, being able to really be the last line of defenses sometimes too as well. So, that he's a talent. He's, that's one thing that people can never say about Ben Simmons. They can talk about his leadership. They can talk about his inability to be clutch or hit free throws or anything like that. But the kid is talented. And, I think that's why a lot of people are so fascinated with him, because they see all the talent there and they just don't understand why everything can't come together. But some players are just not built that way. And I think we have to start just appreciating Ben Simmons for who he is instead of what he couldn't be. You know what I mean? I think one guy that I think would have a shot at the Defensive Player of the Year other than Ben Simmons, I think Evan Mobley. I think
Ooh,
Evan
okay.
Mobley is definitely going to have a shot. He has the same type of versatility to be able to play on the perimeter as well as protect the rim and play bigs. So look out for Evan Mobley, especially if he can stay healthy. And that team, if you're going to have them, I think you had him as a top 4 team in the East.
Top three team.
Yeah, top 3 team. So if they're a top 3 team, that means that Evan Mobley is having a defensive, an amazing defensive season. You know what I mean? As well as with Jared Allen down there as well. So
But my criticism of Ben Simmons is not necessarily him not reaching his potential. It's the fact that you have not seen the consistent, steady improvement. I mean, the gap between Ben Simmons, his unofficial rookie year in 2018, and then now in 2022 is not big.
yeah,
Now we know what he brings defensively. My criticism of him has always been the fact is that he hasn't improved his shot.
yeah.
And it seemed like he's scared to improve his shot. He's scared to shoot in games. And that's why you saw a lot in the playoffs. Doc Rivers take him out. You had some issues there. I don't think there'll be those same issues with Steve Nash, but I do think Ben Simmons will be the defensive player of the year. Now, you said that Evan Mobley would be your defensive player of the year, a guy to at least pay attention to. I think his coach is going to win coach of the year. I got JB Bickerstaff.
I like that kid, man. I like him. He's good.
He is good. And you look at the job that he did as the interim head coach in Houston. When Kevin McHale got fired that season, did as well of a job at least as he could have with the way that locker room was at. He was in Memphis for a time. Now he's in Cleveland. The job that he has done in the job that him and his staff have done developing these young players so quickly, I think is underappreciated, if I'm being completely honest with you. So when you look at what – again, I think Cleveland is going to be a top 3 seed in the East, and for that reason, I think that's going to be part of the reason why he wins Coach of the Year. But man, when you've got some of the young guys that they have, and just to go from, like I said, from just garbage to be 20-something win team to, if Jared Allen does not go down, they are a playoff team. And the job he's done in terms of adjustments, getting these young guys to commit to the defensive side of the floor. I like the offense that they run in Cleveland. Particularly with Garland. I think JB Bickerstaff is going to be this year's coach of the year. What's your thoughts?
I don't hate it. I think he's definitely the runaway favorite right now. I don't dispute it. If I'm gonna put somebody else who's definitely gonna have a shot at it as well, is Ty Lue. I think Ty Lue is gonna have a shot at winning Coach of the Year this year, because given what he did with that team last season, with all the injuries that they had, and now they're going to be fully loaded. And I'm sure they're going to have some injuries again. He's going to have to do some more coaching and some more adjustments and stuff. Ty Lue is very underappreciated, just like Bickerstaff is at times. And I think Ty Lue is definitely going to be in the running too.
Yeah, and again, you guys know I really like Cleveland this year, and that's not a statement you're going to hear very much on Carving It Up, because I just have I truly despise. Now, I don't hate the people, I just truly despise the sports teams in the city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Shout out to Mike Guido. He's the only
I love
Cavs
Mike
fan
Guido.
I know too. So
Yeah. No, love Mike. Also, the co-founder with the Grid, along with yourself. So, yeah, shout out to Mike Guido. I think he's in for a good season as a Cavs fan. Now, the one award that we all talk about, to be honest, we could honestly, in the scheme of things, care less about the other ones. The one we debate every year, most valuable player. I get up in arms about the middle letter, the V word. What truly is valuable? I think this year the most valuable player will be Luka Doncic. I picked it a couple of years ago. Here's the difference, because Luka could have been in the MVP discussion last year with the way he played, especially down the stretch. But what I'm looking at with Luka is this: the issue the last couple of years has been coming into the season out of shape. Now, has he overcorrected a bit and gotten in, I guess, what you could call too good of shape? Maybe. But again, a guy who's, what is he, 23? Being able to score, 30 points a game, almost pull a Russell Westbrook, average a triple-double, but do it far more efficiently than Russ does. Being able to score at ease, make it look as easy as it gets in the NBA. There's certainly other candidates. I thought about Steph. I thought about Giannis, but I decided to have Luka Doncic as my most valuable player this season for the Dallas Mavericks. What's your thoughts on this, Barry?
I don't hate it. I think the way the NBA is going, I mean, we've seen European players or international players kind of dominate the MVP the last few seasons. So, yeah, I think that's where it's going. And given the fact that Jokic won the MVP in the position where the Denver Nuggets were last year, I
Yep.
mean, we're gonna see, because the thing is, the MVP changes every season.
Oh,
We
100%.
think that we understand what the parameters are and what the guidelines are, and then they just completely move the goalposts all the time. So, if the Mavs finish in 5, are they gonna say, well, they didn't finish high enough? Can't you? Because then
They
there's gonna
can't
be
because Jokic won at 6 last year.
this is what I'm saying. So, if somebody's gonna say it, then obviously you're gonna have context to be able to say, hey, wait, listen, what happened here? But us driving ourselves crazy thinking about why they choose the MVP and what are their reasons. I'm not gonna get into that because, like I told you, there are people that vote for the MVP that know nothing about basketball. I'm telling you right now,
That's a
for a
fact.
fact, I know for a fact.
No, I know what
I'm
you're saying. I
just
know
I'm
exactly what
just
you're saying
gonna
right
leave it
now.
there. So but I don't hate that selection. I think Luca is arguably the best young player in the league. He just makes everything just look very easy. And if he can go to the next level, I think Dallas can be able to do that as well. If he can turn that gear, Dallas can possibly see themselves winning 53, 54 games. That's on the high side if everything breaks well, but he has the potential and the talent to do so. So we'll see.
Yeah, and again, is there any other names? Like, if this is your pick, do you have a pick for MVP or?
I mean, it's always the same names, right? I mean, Giannis is gonna be up there, of course, right? Steph is gonna be up there, of course. Jokic is gonna be up there, of course. But if there's um, a surprise candidate, man, um,
Ben Simmons?
no, I would say this is really going on a limb.
Okay.
Kyrie.
I knew you were going to say Kyrie. Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think he's gonna be on his best behavior this season. I don't think
Okay.
Kyrie is gonna have any problems off the court. I don't think you're gonna see any PTO. I don't think you're gonna really see anything like that, Bryson. I think he's going to put himself in a situation where he can be able to get paid, and he knows that being on his best behavior is going to allow him to do so. But running into that, he may end up having one of his best seasons ever and really falling into consideration for the MVP.
Well, one of the things I've always said about Kyrie Irving and that I don't think he does get enough credit for is we know about his scoring ability and to me, the best handle that I've personally ever seen. He's also especially for size, an incredibly efficient player.
Right.
I think I think about that game against his former team Cleveland in the playing game where he went like 10 for 10 or 14 for his first 14, something crazy.
He's a 50, 40, 90 guy, Bryson. Like
He is. He is.
it's amazing.
Hey, no, he's fantastic. Are you sure this isn't a recruiting pitch to the Lakers? Or I'm just
Well,
saying.
listen, if it's a recruiting pitch, we would really have to overpay this guy if he ends up winning the MVP, right? So, I mean,
What you got now at point guard?
yeah, well, listen, anything's better than what we got right now at point guard.
That's true.
But yeah, I just think that just the talent that they have, if everything breaks well in Brooklyn, they can really have a good season. Given the fact that they're going all in, we don't know if Kevin Durant is going to be there next season. We don't know if Kyrie is going to be there next season. We don't know if Steve Nash is going to be there next season. So there's a lot that everybody is focused on. There's a lot riding on the season for Brooklyn. So I think if everything breaks perfect, I think he can definitely be a surprise dark horse for MVP.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the fact that you're going on a limb with that one.
I am.
So, again, we got the regular season, we got the award winners, but at the end of the day, legacies are defined in April, May, and definitely in June. So let's I'm going to start based on my standings predictions. Go ahead and put out the play-in tournaments. Here's how it would play out. You would have Chicago facing Atlanta, the Knicks facing the Hornets out east, and then the West, you'd have Portland and the Lakers, and then you'd have Minnesota and Phoenix. My predictions for that would be I think the Hawks would beat the Bulls to get into the playoffs as the 7 seed. I think the Knicks would beat the Hornets. Hornets going out immediately in the play-in tournament for a third consecutive year. Again, one of the biggest things about Charlotte is they might be a bottom 5 team defensively. They are awful on the end of the floor. Although I do like the progression of LaMelo Ball. Your Lakers knock out the Blazers. Simply put, they just have better players. I mean, there's no other way really around that. And then I've got the Suns for all of their issues. I think they'll beat the Timberwolves to get in as the 7 seed. What do you think about this?
I would say the Timberwolves would surprise. Okay. Yeah, I think I got the Timberwolves over the Suns. I think everything else is okay. Maybe the Bulls over the Hawks, but given how they're going to look towards the end of the season, Knicks over Hornets, I think that's fair, and Lakers over Blazers, definitely yes.
All right, so based on those predictions, that would have for basically the winner go home, basically a game 7. Essentially, I would have Knicks Bulls, sort of a throwback to the 90s, and then you have Lakers Timberwolves, which is a throwback to what, the 04 conference finals, I think it was.
Yes.
What year? 04 conference finals, last time Minnesota got there. And when it's all said and done, I think the Bulls and the Lakers would both advance to the playoffs as the 8 seed. I thought about putting the Knicks as the winner, but I decided I'm going to go with DeMar DeRozan over anybody else that the Knicks have. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't hate that. It's about matchups, right? And DeRozan was so good last season, and I think they still have a lot there in Chicago. They still have Vukovic. They still are very, very deep, or not very deep, but they have a good starting lineup. They got my boy over there in regards to Caruso. So yeah. I like that matchup there with Chicago and the Knicks, and I got Chicago winning. Definitely Lakers and Timberwolves. Obviously, they're gonna have their size. This is not gonna be a speed versus, I think they're gonna try to match size with size. But the at the end of the day, the Lakers have LeBron James, and that's the difference. That's the difference in regards to a big time game like that, especially if everybody plays the way they need to play. If everybody progresses, if Kendrick Nunn, if JTA, if everybody plays well, Lonnie Walker, hopefully you get some production out of the bigs and Thomas Bryant and
Damian
Jones. So we'll see what happens. They have an interesting team. The Lakers do, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they have a championship team. It's an interesting team because it can break either way. They can be really bad or they can be pretty good and they can actually have a shot. So we'll see what happens with them. But in regards to Minnesota, I think everybody's overrating them. I'm with you. I need to see it before I even give them any praise in regards to putting those two bigs together. It's just very clunky. It really is. So yeah,
it is.
I'm with you.
And it felt like they were kind of reaching at something that's not there just for the sake of improving their roster, just because they, I guess they have he's an upgrade over whoever else they had backing up Cat at center. I guess Naz Reid was that guy.
Right.
But yeah, in these game 7 type situations, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it really is true. I mean, who are you going to trust, the young core of Minnesota or LeBron James? Like
exactly,
it kind of ends there. So that would set up these matchups in the first round out east. You would have the Bulls taking on the Bucks. You would have the Heat taking on the Celtics, the Hawks against the Sixers, and then the Brooklyn Nets taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So looking at these matchups, I thought long and hard about it. And when it was all said and done, I decided to go with the Bucks sweeping the Bulls, which I thought they should have done a year ago. The Celtics winning in 6 games over Miami in a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals. Sixers beat Atlanta in 6 games. I think Trae Young makes it close, wins them a couple games. And then I got Nets in 7 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. So despite what I think is going to be a great regular season from Cleveland, what the heck are they going to do to stop Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving over the course of a 7-game series? So given these matchups, Barry, what do you think?
The only one that I have, 2 I have reservations about. It's the Miami and the Boston series. Like I said, I don't know if the Celtics are going to have enough gas this year. I would flip that. I would put Miami in 6. And in regards to the Cavs and the Nets, that's interesting because with the Nets, it's matchup based. If they have a good matchup, they have a shot. If the matchup is not favorable, I don't know if I can pick them because, Cleveland with JP over there, they're gonna play a physical style of basketball. They're big, they're mobile, they block shots, they get into you, they got guys that can play defense and can really compete. So Nets in 7, it's not a horrible pick, but maybe I'll lean Cavs in 7.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair, and you brought up the physical nature of it. I think Boston definitely provided the blueprint to everybody on how to beat the
correct.
Nets in a 7-game series, which they did in a very close 4 games. But nevertheless, a sweep is a sweep.
Right.
The reason I had Celtics in 6 over Miami, and I considered picking Miami, but the only thing is this, and it's the reason I picked Boston last year, which kind of manifested itself what you saw in that series. Miami has no offense outside of Jimmy Butler. And now Tyler Hero dealt with injuries, but even before he got hurt, he was atrocious in that conference finals. By the way, congrats to him on getting that big deal this offseason. But in terms of Boston's, they're not that young anymore. Jason Tatum's going into year 5. Year 6. Yeah, year 6 for Jason Tatum, year 7 for Jaylen Brown. So they're not kids anymore. You've got Robert Williams, hopefully coming in this season more healthy than a year ago. And I just trust the guys. I certainly trust the Celtics more in terms of shooting. And I get the matchup. You would certainly favor Miami in terms of coaching with Eric Spoelstra, but I would take the Celtics to win that series in 6 games. So now to the Western Conference first round. It would be our teams facing in the first round. Your Lakers versus my Warriors. I'd have the Pelicans and the Nuggets, and then you got the Phoenix Suns, Memphis Grizzlies, and then you got the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Clippers. And if those matchups do in fact happen, I think it will be a Warriors gentleman's sweep over the Lakers because nobody sweeps LeBron James. I know we did it twice, but he was in Cleveland for crying out loud. I think the Pelicans upset the Nuggets in 7. Grizzlies take out the troubled Suns in 6. And your favorite, I got the Mavericks beating the Clippers, which they were not able to do in 2020 and 21. Sort of what I'm going with Lakers Warriors. Again, I don't think much needs to be said in terms of the Warriors are better defensively. They're deeper. I like Darvin Ham, but he's certainly not as proven as Steve Kerr. I've got Pelicans over the Nuggets simply because if you look at Nikola Jokic's numbers in the playoffs, they don't hold a candle to his regular season numbers. I've been one to say I trust Jamal Murray in the postseason. I've seen more from him in those big moments than I've seen from Jokic, and I think this is Zion's coming out party. I've said coming into the season, so I take the Pelicans to advance. I mean, crap, they almost beat the 64-win Suns last year. Grizzlies in 6 over Phoenix. CP3 has a vintage CP3 game here or there, but simply put, Memphis once again is deeper, better coached, and I do like Monty Williams, but I favor Taylor Jenkins in that matchup. Grizzlies would advance. And you brought up earlier when you were talking about, I think it was the Nets-Cavs series. It's all about matchups in the postseason, and I think Dallas is a horrendous matchup for the Clippers because of their ability to shoot the basketball, because of their ability to play small with the Clippers. And who out there, I don't care if it's Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, anybody, who is going to stop Luka? They couldn't stop them in 2020 or in 21 when they probably should have lost that series. You have an upgraded head coach in Jason Kidd. So I think the Mavericks would knock out our favorite team, the Los Angeles Clippers, in 7 games. So what's your thoughts on these 4 series?
Yeah, I love the Mavs pick. I think I would even say Mavs in 6.
Ooh.
Pelicans, I would definitely flip that. I think I agree with you in regards to Jokic. The physicality of the playoffs, it really shows, and he's not as dominant as he is. But I still think that Jamal Murray is just so special.
He is,
and he's been there for in regards to knowing how to take over a series. So I would have Denver winning that in 6. You give the Suns way too much credit. I don't think that they would be able to hang with the Grizzlies in 6 games. That would be 5, if not 4. And the Lakers, the fact that the Lakers are actually in that situation to have to deal with the Warriors in a first round series, I can't dispute Warriors in 5. It may even be 4. So, we'll see what happens with that. Matchups are really important for the Lakers. If they get the proper matchup in the first round, then they can advance. I myself said that I see my Lakers getting to the second round, but it all depends on who they play. So,
yeah,
that's pretty fair.
Okay. Well, so you think LeBron James is going to get swept twice by his son?
Yes.
Really? By his
Yes.
man. So Steph Curry still owns LeBron. Okay, so moving on to the second round out east, you would have a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference second round between the Celtics and the Bucks, and then you have Nets versus 76ers, James Harden facing his old team, and I think that matchup would come out to Bucks in 5. I think, again, Boston, a little bit similar to Phoenix, is a troubled basketball team. I think it would have been Bucks in 5 had Chris Middleton been healthy last year. A lot of close games in that series that Boston was able to barely pull away simply because the Bucks didn't have enough shot makers outside of Giannis. And I'd have 76ers in 6 games over Brooklyn, because they're deeper. I think for all the questions we have about Doc Rivers and his colored history in the playoffs in terms of a coach, I certainly trust him more than I trust Steve Nash. I think the Sixers with PJ Tucker are well equipped to, you can't stop Kevin Durant, but to at least handle Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So I would take the Sixers to win in 6 over the Nets. So what do you think would happen should these matchups play out in the second round?
No dispute here for me. I think you hit the nail on the head in regards to Bucks in 5. If the Celtics even get there, Sixers in 6, that's fair. You got 2 coaches that have no idea what they're doing in regards to clutch time situations, but you have to pick one, right? So, give me Doc against Steve Nash. Sixers in 6. That sounds plausible.
All right, so moving on to the West now, you would have a rematch of the Western Conference Finals between the Mavs and the Warriors, and probably the least interesting second-round series just because they're not big NBA brands, the Pelicans and the Grizzlies. I think that'd come out to dubs in 5, just like it did a year ago against Dallas, and I would take the Grizzlies to win in 6 over the Pelicans. Simply put, and it's why I had the Dubs winning last year over the Mavericks, is, again, it's about matchups. They did a respectable job in the first and last game of that series against Steph Curry. But in those games, Klay Thompson went off or Jordan Poole went off. They just don't have enough defensively in terms of one-on-one guys that can hang with Golden State. Golden State, we understand about the ball movement, especially the guards constantly moving without the basketball, Draymond being the great distributor that he is, and also size as well. I think that's something that you could see if these two were to match up. You could see something come into the picture with Kevon Looney. I think he had like 17 rebounds in one of those games against the Mavericks in the conference finals. James Wiseman also in the picture, and some of the young guys like Patrick Baldwin, who they took in the first round. So I would take Warriors in 5, Grizzlies in 6 over the Pelicans. Again, I think this is the Grizzlies take another step forward. They get to the conference finals for the first time in, I think, 11 years, if I'm not mistaken. 10 years. So what's your thoughts?
Oh, man. Yeah, I think Warriors in 5 is fair. That's definitely, I don't see the Mavericks winning any more than a game. Grizzlies in 6, I would definitely agree with you. I would probably even go 5, because Grizzlies are they're just a juggernaut. They really are. In regards to the Pelicans, obviously, if Zion can stay healthy, that's the matchup that we would love to see. The tale of the number 1 and number 2 pick. I said that Ja was the generational talent, and Zion was just for now. And I am not wavering off my thought process in regards to that. Grizzlies will definitely win that series, 100%.
Okay. All right, I respect that. So that would leave us down to 4 teams in the conference finals. Out east, you would have, I'm really going on a limb here saying the top 2 seeds in both conferences, by the way. So in the Eastern Conference, you have the Sixers. What's that?
Definitely chalk.
Yeah, no, it is. I got the Sixers and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I would take I almost said Buccaneers. I would take the Milwaukee Bucks to win in 6 games over Philadelphia. Again, it would be an interesting matchup in terms of it's 2 big teams, it's 2 good defensive teams, it's 2 teams that shoot the basketball well. But when we talk about these Eastern Conference Finals, it often comes down to, at this stage of the playoffs, best player versus best player. And too many times in the postseason, I've seen Joel Embiid either come up small or deal with some kind of nagging injury that seems to come out of nowhere. I mean, who'd have predicted last year he'd have suffered a very serious eye injury? I mean, that one just came out of nowhere. So if he either limps into the playoffs or if he suffers one in the first or second round, that's advantage Milwaukee without a question. I think Giannis does his thing. I would take the Milwaukee Bucks to win 6. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it. I just feel that Giannis is just going to be unstoppable in that series. There's nobody that they can really put on him that's going to slow him down, stop him, anything. And when you have to rely on James Harden for anything, it's going to be a problem. It's an issue. So if Joel can stay healthy, he gives them a fighting chance. But the Bucks just being so consistent and having all facets of the game locked down, outside shooting, perimeter defense, rim protection. Coaching is definitely a push here, right?
It
You got
is.
two coaches that you really can't trust in certain situations, but talent wins out. And I think Giannis and the Bucks end up winning in 6.
So, yeah, I got the Milwaukee Bucks advancing to the finals. We've got a comment here. Our guy, John Rivera, shout out from the Fan Perspective podcast. He says, let's go Bulls. You missed a big opportunity there, John, to come in and say, let's go Yankees, which he always does on my show. You kind of missed your opportunity, my man. But yeah, sorry, John. I think the Bulls are 8 seeded out in the first round. Out west, you got a rematch of the second round series between the Memphis Grizzlies and my Golden State Warriors. I think just like last year, this is a slugfest. This is back and forth. I'd be shocked if a team won 2 straight games this series. I think the matchup in terms of Golden State shooting with Memphis's defense and size is a fascinating matchup. Again, the coaching chess sort of type situation with Kerr and Jenkins, I think is fascinating. But of course, I got my Golden State Warriors winning in a decisive 7th game at the Chase Center. So again, I don't see either team winning back-to-back games in the series. As long as everybody stays healthy. When Ja was injured last year, and the Warriors won 2 of the last 3 to advance the conference finals in 2022. In 2023, this one goes the distance. This one goes to Game 7. What do you think, Barry?
Yeah, I like it. I like the fact that you picked your Warriors in 7. I'm going the other way though. I have Grizzlies in 6 games.
Oh, 6.
Grizzlies in 6.
Stop.
I'm telling you, man, I like the Grizzlies physicality. The dynamic between the 2 point guards. I like that matchup. I like Desmond Bane, his defense, his ability to shoot the ball on the outside. It's gonna be a great matchup to see, but I do think that, and I'm one of those people, I was very, very steadfast on saying that before Ja got hurt, if Ja didn't get hurt in that series last season, we might be singing a different tune in regards to Warriors winning. So if everybody stays healthy, I think the Memphis Grizzlies, man, I think they got it in 6.
Okay. So are you saying now, before I get to my finals prediction, so who would be, and I've also got comments here that I'll get to just a second, who would be your finals pick? Do you have a finals pick as of now? Or are you going to reveal that in your show, or
no? We can definitely have the final. My finals pick is Bucks Grizzlies.
Okay.
That's if everything breaks well for the Grizzlies. But if I'm gonna, I have 2 things. It's about thinking with my head and heart, right? So,
yeah.
Thinking with my head, I think it's the matchup that I wanted to see from last year, Bucks and Warriors in the finals.
Everybody did.
If I'm thinking with my heart, like I said, if everything breaks well for the Grizzlies, I'm over here. It's if, right? So if I'm thinking with my heart, it's definitely Bucks and Grizzlies. But my head, Bucks and Warriors.
So you're essentially admitting to zero objectivity whatsoever.
No. I mean, there's definitely objectivity. I'm just saying, like, if the Grizzlies stay healthy,
right.
I think that they can be able to beat the Golden State Warriors. However, we don't know that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's more leaning towards Bucks Warriors, honestly.
Right, and it could be an interesting matchup. Should you get a series between those two? Before we move to my finals prediction, got a couple from John Rivera. He says James Harden about to go nuts this year. Watch. I mean, I do expect a good year from James Harden. Certainly not an MVP caliber season.
What does he mean by nuts?
Come on, man.
No, I'm not being funny. I'm just it's about. It's James Harden. We all know that James Harden is always going to be good in the regular season. It's the playoffs that's the problem. That's the problem. He's always gonna lead the league in assists, possibly be top 2, top 3 in assists. And when it comes to the playoffs, when the games are officiated very closely, more physical, he's gonna start looking at the refs and start to complain. That's what he does. So I've seen 13 years of this. It's no shock to me. So in regards to going nuts, I don't get that sentiment.
Okay, and John predicts us. So he's got a triple-double season for James Harden, and I don't see him averaging 25 or 10 rebounds for that matter. I'll say I'll give him a 22, 10
7 and
and
8.
6.
Okay.
You're 22, 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got a double season for James, and that's particularly. It seems to always be in Game 6s as well. James Harden is at home, in
See,
particular. That he
John is one of those guys, man. I remember when Westbrook got traded to the Lakers, and he made triple double.
he's a big Westbrook fan.
It's like, dude, like the eyes don't lie. You're seeing regression in James Harden. You're seeing regression in Russell Westbrook. That's the way it is. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing any. There's a reason why he wanted to go to the Philadelphia 76ers. He needs to go to the Philadelphia 76ers to get that cover. He needs to be under a guy that's going to be the guy. And that's the problem. He's not the guy anymore. He's not.
No. Those days have passed. Couple more comments here. John just says Boston versus Warriors again. I don't see Boston getting past the second round without Ime Udoka, but he says Warriors healthy, win it all again. I like that prediction.
I don't even see them. I don't even see them first round, but we'll see.
No, there's a chance that could be the case. So let's put up the graphic. So I accidentally put Western Conference Finals in a little box above for Bucks Warriors. So I'll just go and put up the screen right now. The winner, I'm sure, I'm really keeping everybody on their toes right now, because they have no idea who I'm going to pick. But the winner of the 2023 NBA Finals will be. My Golden State Warriors in 7 games.
Why am I not surprised, Bryson? Why?
I know. I wanted to keep everybody kind of on their toes a little bit and really build the anticipation the best I could.
The drum roll was definitely suspenseful. Absolutely,
it was. 6 seconds of just pure anxiety. But I got my Warriors winning in 7. It's the last 2 NBA champions facing against one another. It's the matchup I think that we wanted to see last year, but we didn't get due to the fact that Milwaukee dealt with numerous injuries. But I think we'll get it this year. I think both teams will be, as healthy as a team can be going into a finals, because we know there's obviously nagging injuries along the way. But I trust, to me, what breaks it, Barry, because I think it's not only the last 2 NBA champions, but I think it's the 2 best players. I think it's Steph and Giannis are the best 2 players currently in basketball. Both teams are deep. Both teams shoot the basketball well. Both teams are great defensively. Now, Milwaukee is bigger, but as I said earlier when I was talking about the Warriors against the Mavericks, Golden State can add a level of size due to the fact that you got Looney coming back, and I really like what I've seen thus far from James Wiseman in camp and now in the preseason coming into the regular season. So they can combat that to a certain degree. To me, what decides it, though, is Steve Kerr versus Mike Budenholzer. And that's what does it. Steve Kerr, his whole tenure in Golden State, has always known when to push the right buttons. Of course, the most notable is back his first year when he benched Andrew Bogut in favor for Andre Iguodala, who hadn't started a game that season, and the Warriors won the last 3 games to win the NBA Finals over Cleveland. So in terms of poise, in terms of adjustments, I think Golden State wins on both fronts, and they win the championship for the 5th time in the last 9 years. So what's your thoughts?
I have Bucks in 6. I listen. I think that both teams, it's going to be a hard-fought 6 games. We're not talking about, it's going to feel more like Chicago in '98.
Oh, okay.
Where, all the games were pretty tight-knit. It could go either way. One team was favored to win it over the other one, and the other team, happened to win it. So, I think that both teams are dynamic. They can shoot from the outside. They have defense. They have rebounding. The edge goes to coaching, obviously, to Golden State. But when you have Giannis, who's literally the most unstoppable player in the NBA, that gives you more than a fighting chance to win a series. Of course. And, the fact that they have the outside shooting, there's not much double teaming that you can do with Giannis in a situation like that. So how would that series play out? What type of defensive schemes would Kerr try to unleash in that series? Is Draymond going to be enough to be able to, just kind of slow him down or kind of frustrate Giannis?
Let me interrupt you real quick. I think they'd put Wiggins on Giannis.
They'll probably put Wiggins or Kuminga. Yeah, you're right.
Or Kuminga, right? Yeah. Just to combat his athleticism.
Right. So, we're just going to see if they're going to be up for the challenge, because that's a tall task to have to deal with. It really is.
It is. I mean, listen, it will be without question, a go either way series. I think it'll be one of the better finals that we've seen in recent memory. And I think it would be our first 7-game series since, of course, my heart got split into a million pieces back in 2016 by the great
Oh
LeBron
yeah.
James and Kyrie Irving.
Oh yeah.
It's the worst night of my NBA rooting life, but hey, listen, you win some and you lose some. But
That's
I
it,
think
man.
it's going to be a happy ending. My Warriors will claim championship number 8, staying in that third place all time behind only the Celtics and your Lakers, of course. You guys will hold that for all time. Don't worry. And the Finals MVP, who else could it be? Wardell Stephen Curry II, winning his back-to-back Finals MVP. Should be 4. He should have 3 Finals MVPs by
Oh
now.
my
But
goodness.
yeah, Steph Curry
Why
wins.
did I sign up to be on this show? Why?
That's a good. I don't
Why?
know. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to happen.
I thought you
I
were
mean,
going to be objective. I thought that you were going to have some type of objectivity and not do this. But once I came on and I saw the outfit, I was like, okay, I get what I'm getting into right now. I understand. I understand it. I get
listen, how can I believe in and trust anybody else when everybody else ain't got these?
it.
You know what I'm
Just
saying?
fake it. Fake it for a little bit. You know what I mean? Just fake it
Just
for
for
a
a little
little
bit.
bit. Just a little bit. So people can say, you know what? Bryson is actually, he's going another way, man. I might have to. I don't know. I might have to believe him a little bit, and then you can flip the tide later in the season. Just do that. Do that.
Who
All
was
right.
I picked to win the championship back in October of 2021? I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh yeah, it was Golden State. Yeah, I picked Golden State to win the finals after they'd missed the playoffs the last 2 years, and nobody was picking Golden State.
You will be wrong this year, sir.
Will I?
You'll be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a wager on this one that we'll reveal later
Yes.
in the season. Whoever
Either
loses, man.
Either my Grizzlies or the Bucks are gonna be able to get it done. I
Okay.
got it. One of those teams gonna get it done for me. I don't know who it is, but one of them gonna get it done.
I don't trust Memphis. All right, so Barry Grant Jr. Before we get out of here, give the people for anyone who's been living under a rock, that all of you wave, man. It's going crazy right now. You got that Saturday show going. You got that brand new studio, which looks amazing. So talk about your show, talk about where they can find it, and talk about the Grid Network as well, if you could.
Yeah, definitely, man. You could definitely find me at All Even Podcast on Twitter, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Facebook as well, Barry Grant Jr. Listen, the show is a lot of fun, man. Catch it on Saturdays. We talk about a array of stuff, hip hop culture, sports, obviously, and my acclaimed dummy of the week is always the best.
Yes.
We have more people coming by in the studio week to week, so it's always a party in regards to when people come down here, and they have a lot of fun, have a good time. The Grid Network, please go ahead and support that. It's definitely a collection of great, talented people. Bryson, Ryan Flowers, Patrick Brown, Alfred Parsard Jr., the Can Fan boys out there in Canada, Ant, Adam, and Alex. We're just looking to expand and looking for more talent, looking for more people to join the fold. So you can catch that at Grid_network on Instagram, the Grid Network on Twitter, excuse me. You can go on to YouTube, Grid Network, and catch all the latest shows, all the latest shorts and all that stuff. We have a lot of content in a very short period of time. I think I looked today, and I think we have like 70 videos up, close to 70. So it's like, we're really pounding out the content, which is really great. So it's just gonna keep the page growing. I'm proud of everybody that's a part of it. You guys have been doing the groundwork and busting your ass. So I really appreciate, and it's just gonna be a lot of fun as we keep growing. We're gonna be building more shows, more content coming out there. So definitely look out for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Barry Grant Jr., the always objective Barry Grant Jr. on Carving Up Live. Barry, appreciate you coming on the show and doing this, and here's to a great NBA season.
Absolutely, man.
That was Barry, host of the All Even Podcast, co-host of the Grid Network. It's great to have him on, as always, to talk about this new NBA season. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. 82 games, every team, of course, mid-October to mid-April. Listen, it's the first part of the season. It's always just like it is in the NFL, just like it is in any league. You'll have your occasional fool's gold here and there. Of course, we remember that certain teams. I remember the Wizards got off to a great start last year, and they failed to even make the play-in tournament. So we're gonna have our overreactions. We all do. I do it. You guys do it. It's part of the fun of doing this. But once we get to mid-April, in the postseason. That's what's really going to get fun. But like I said to Barry, we'll say to you guys, here's to a great NBA season in 2022 through 2023. I got my Dubs winning the finals back-to-back, fifth time in nine years. It's going to happen, and it all begins tonight on Ring Night in the Chase Center. So that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up Live on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. Also, be sure to catch out the Carving Up podcast on, as Barry brought up, the Grid Network on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, just everywhere you get your podcasts, Carving It Up, as well as the other shows on the Grid, such as Barry's show, All Even, such as the new Rocket Fuel podcast from our guy, Alfred Parsar Jr., the Chaotic Sports podcast from Patrick Brown, Clutch Sports Talk with Ryan Flowers. You can check out all those shows. The Cowboys Can Fan podcast as well. Shout out to those guys as well. So check out all the content we got over there. And also, be sure to like, share, comment, and most importantly, hit that big red subscribe button to Carving It Up podcast on YouTube. It helps the channel grow exponentially. And subscribe to the Grid Network, GRYD. You can see it up there. See the Grid logo on my overlay right there. The Grid Network on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to that. And also like, share, comment, and help the network grow. So, hope everybody has a great evening and a great week. Until Thursday when I see y'all again. Here's to a great NBA season. We got 8 months of great content, great basketball, and I cannot wait for every last bit of it. So have a great week. See you on Thursday. Continue to stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. We going back to back. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.